Welcome to the University of Arkansas Fort Smith Lions Den. I'm Jimmy Haas, well, Coach Gibson. Coach started off on the road. A little closer to UA Fort Smith and the campus this year. You've been to Colorado. You've been everywhere, man. But this year you started off a little bit closer to where fans could actually go. And unfortunately, I was working, but watched along on the live stream, and you had some support in Little Rock.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. When we got on the bus and then we got there, the staff at least looked at each other and goes, "Wow, that was pretty cool to not have to go to South Dakota or Colorado or somewhere way in Texas. Just the fact that it was just 2 hours down the road was really, really nice." And Cam Bush was there yesterday or last week, and we had a lot of fan support from the area. We had as much as anybody, honestly, of the 4 schools that were down there, and that was unique. We had some people reach out to us in the week leading up to the game, asking where the games were, that they were alums in the area and that they wanted to come and bring their kids, and so that was really, really neat. So yeah, we definitely did not feel like a visiting team in the area, and that was a really unique experience that I think we'll get more of that now that we're in the MIAA.
Get to see the new team, how they mesh early on. And it looked to me like in the first half of the Harding game, the very first game that you played, they looked like they were pretty well comfortable and was ready to play someone other than each other in scrimmages, in inter-squad scrimmages. So the Lions looked hungry when they hit the court.
Yeah, I was proud of how we played in night one. With what Harding does and how they press you the entire game, the game gets disjointed. It's not a natural flow. It's hard to prepare for. If you don't do it, it's hard to simulate it, as they say. Kind of like those football teams that run the triple option or whatever. Right. You can work on it, but you can't really simulate it. And I thought the guys did a really good job with it overall. I thought we attacked them when we had numbers. I thought that guys did a pretty good job of taking care of the ball. We had a few spills here and there, but that's the whole key they're trying to get you to do is speed up and turn the ball over. And we did enough where we were able to win that game the first night, and I was proud of how they came out, and they were excited night one.
Coach, it's always tough, of course, I call it preseason. It's pre-conference before you actually get into the MIAA. And I know that in the past when I've talked to you, you don't want to schedule cupcakes. You don't want to schedule. You want tough competition to get your team ready for that tough MIAA or in the Lone Star in the past. You continue that again this year. These are 2 tough opponents.
Yeah, you have to thread the line of trying to build confidence with your guys, but also to challenge them. So it's a very thin line you're trying to thread. Because if we don't play teams that can challenge us, then we will not be ready for league play. And that's obviously something that we are always focused on. Our goal always here is to compete for championships in the league and the league tournament. And if we're not doing that in our non-conference, which is a larger portion of our season in the MIAA because we only play 19 league games as opposed to the 22 in the Lone Star, with those additional games, if we're not preparing ourselves for the league play, then we won't be ready. And so, we played those 2 teams. We turn around and play Harding again on Sunday. We also have SNU coming in here, who's an NCAA tournament team, and we go on the road to Quincy, another Division II team from the GLVC, to try to kind of challenge ourselves as we continue to get closer to the league play. And then we have Drury to finish up right before Christmas break back here in the Stubblefield Center.
Coach, in the past with the Lone Star, you mentioned how many conference games you would have. Was it tough to find opponents that you could play in non-conference because the schedule has changed so much?
Well, in the Lone Star, for where we are located, it's not that hard for us to find non-conference opponents. But because the majority, I think every Division II school in the state of Texas in the Lone Star was in the Lone Star, they couldn't find them. So that's why they wanted a heavier conference slate and not as many non-conference games because it's hard for them to find them. For us, we're in such a great area because we're right in the middle of the GAC. The GLVC is spread through Missouri. We can still play those eastern teams in the Lone Star, if we chose to. So we're in a great area where we can play a lot of different teams in the non-conference, and I think that's why you can prepare yourself for your league play because you can get to teams that are going to be more similar. But you can also protect your team from super long road trips, because it is a battle of attrition as we go later and later into the year, where if your team is going all over the place, those miles add up. And so we can still, play a closer games on the road here in the non-conference, which keeps us fresher as we move into the conference play.
Coach, I'm gonna use this question, but I'm gonna relate it to football and then basketball. How have you structured this team different, do you think, for the MIAA versus the Lone Star? And what I mean by that is you have teams that play, let's say in the Big 12 football conference, it's all pass, hurry. And then in the Big 10 conference, it's all slow down, grind it out, and run it out, tough physical. How have you using that? How have you structured this team to get ready for the MIAA? Have you done anything different?
Yeah, so I don't know if we were going to do it any differently than we were in the Lone Star, as far as what I already outlined as things we needed to get better at. We needed to be bigger. We needed to be stronger. We needed to have more wingspan length at the bigger spots to try to cover up some ground. And that all will help us, because the MIAA is a bigger, more physical league in those areas. And so we were going to try to solve or go that direction regardless of the league we were in. Mm-hmm. But it just so happens to kind of fit it a little bit more as we move into the MIAA. But we definitely, in recruiting, we started putting some markers as far as like we're just not going to look at, and this was not to pick on shorter guys, shorter players, but we were just not going to recruit in certain areas if they didn't hit certain marks as far as size and length and things like that. And I think that will help us. Last year we struggled rebounding the ball and protecting the paint. And just by size alone, it gives you a little bit better of a chance to do those two things. And so we definitely tried to hit that hard in the recruiting process. And I think we did. I do think our team, when people come out tonight, hopefully for the toy toss game, that they'll be surprised of how much bigger we will look from one year to the next.
In all fairness, you had some big players on your team last year. They just either were not eligible yet or working back from injuries. So you had the players in position, just couldn't utilize them. Yeah. So, and I know that was a frustration for you, because you had the players. You're like, man, if I could just put them in, if I could just play them. So I get that. Toy toss game. I'm glad that I'm very proud and very glad that you're bringing that back. Have you heard from Newman this week?
Oh yeah, but we actually didn't talk about the toy toss game. We talked about his game at Grand Canyon, and we recapped our two games from the weekend actually yesterday. But yeah, it was. I mean, last year I think we had 1,500 people in here, and we had about 3,200 toys, and so it was awesome. And our hope is that does nothing but grow continuously. Right. It's such a great event. It's really a huge part of where we can be bigger than just a basketball team. We can make an impact to the youth in the community, which is so important to us as a program. And so I certainly hope that there's a great turnout tonight, because, again, it's bigger than just basketball. But you do get to watch, hopefully, an exciting team take the floor tonight in the Stubblefield Center.
Coach, let's remind everyone, bring a toy. Come out to the Stubblefield tonight. Bring a toy. And when the Lions score their first basket, just throw it out on the floor. I mean, throw it as far as you can out on the court. And we have volunteers that will go around and pick those up. And they're going for underprivileged families this time of year. Man, I really appreciate that, because, everyone likes to think that that everybody in our area is okay, but that's not the case. And, the Lions and the college is doing their part to help out families that are in need. Man, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. No, it's a great deal. I think it's something that our community identifies with. As I've said 100 times, when I first came back last year, obviously there's a lot of questions, but one of the very first ones all the time is, are we going to bring back the toy toss game? Right. And we did that last year. I think it went great. I hope people are as excited about it year two, and so we can get that tradition back on. To where we just know every single year that's going to be a great deal for our community.
You've unpacked all the boxes. This is your program. I was in your office preseason getting ready, and just visiting with him, did a couple of interviews. You've settled in. This is definitely your program, and and you started off great. I mean, 1-1 on the year, and you're looking forward to the first year in the MIAA. As we wrap up this first show, let's talk a little bit about what you're preparing for, how you're preparing on the different on the road trips. I know they're going to be shorter. Mm-hmm. All of that's going to be new. So how much tougher is it to get ready instead of knowing where you're going to stay when you go to Dallas Baptist, or knowing where you're going to stay when you go to Eastern New Mexico? How is it going to be different, and what kind of challenges have you seen so far?
Yeah, so it's funny. My staff and I who go over the hotels, whoever the assistant that's in charge of that, we didn't know any of those places that we're about to go stay. So it is truly like when we pull up, we're going to be like, okay, this was a pick, or maybe next year we need to stay somewhere different. And so it was kind of a blind draw as we were going through and selecting where we're going to go to hotels. But it changes kind of our travel. Last year we would have to leave so early, or even a day earlier, to get to the places that we were going. Now, just like we did for the games at Little Rock, like we practiced Thursday morning here, and then we traveled there and did a little shoot around Thursday evening and played the game Friday. Well, we have that. We can still do those things at, going to Missouri Southern or Rogers State or Northeastern or, any of those schools that are within 3 hours to us. We can still practice here, utilize our facility, and not have to do what we had to do so much last year, which was travel all day long and then get there and then try to get your practice in. And so you really kind of lose a day of practice leading up to the preparation of the game. So I think that's going to greatly help us. But you're right. Every year you're here, the program becomes more and more yours. And last year, not that it wasn't my program, because it was, but you're still transitioning over. Right. And so, yes, I definitely feel like this is much more of my fingerprints on the roster and on how we play and things like that. But as we do travel around and play, we're going to have to keep making adjustments because it is the unknown. There were certain schools in the Lone Star that I just knew how to play because I had played them for 8 straight years. So those coaches had tendencies, those players you got used to playing, et cetera, et cetera. The road, you kind of understood how the travel and what you had to do. And so, yeah, every place we go this year is going to be like Groundhog Day for us because we're going to have to figure out what works or what doesn't work as we kind of move through this first season in the MIAA.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited, but as we say, we gotta play the right way tonight, and hopefully we have a great crowd to see that.
Got a toy toss game coming up tonight. Make sure that you come on out early, bring a toy, and let's have some fun, and also help the University of Arkansas Fort Smith help support some families in need this time of year. Hey, for Coach Gibson, I'm Jimmy Haas. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Lions Den at UA Fort Smith. Coach Ryan McAdams is coming up next. Stay tuned. Welcome back. As we join Coach McAdams on the Lions Den. I'm Jimmy Haas. Coach, let's get right into it. New faces on the team. Shorter road trip this time around to open up the season. Kind of tough being on the road, opening up with a basically half new, half used to. Mm-hmm. You had players that you're used to, what their tendencies are. Then you had players who wasn't really sure in game time on a college court what they were going to do. Yeah. And being on the road. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was an eye-opening experience for many of us. I include myself. There were 3 men's coaches at Media Day that independently of each other said when they were being asked questions, they said, we'll find out more about our team when we start playing games. That's when you start solidifying rotations. That's when you start learning the most about your team. Even through scrimmages, exhibition games, and practices through the fall, you just don't know necessarily what you have until you start playing, until the lights are on. Those were very true words for our experience. Night 1, we walked into a game against Southern Arkansas, who had a brand new head coach from USAO, and the scoutability of that opponent specifically was very difficult. It was a huge challenge for our staff and for our players to be prepared. We had a rough start in that game just by, what they ran and the personnel and the things like that. That when you don't have game film, when you don't have scout film on people going into a game, it makes things more difficult. We could have played much better just for ourselves. We didn't shoot the ball well. But we also just defensively didn't do very well on some things, some areas that I thought we were further along in. And then you move forward to Arkansas Monticello. We got a night to watch them. They played before us on Friday. The kids got a chance to sit and watch them, prepare themselves for their personnel by watching them in person. And then we had film. Coach Midlick has been there for a number of years now. We kind of had an understanding of what they would be running and how they would be functioning. And we were much more prepared, and it turned out really well. When we went into the game Saturday, I just said, this is a great opportunity for us to figure out who we are currently, and the fall that you have leading up to games starting, none of that stuff matters. Once the lights go on, it's game time. And we have 8 new faces and 6 returners and currently 5 healthy returners. And so, we have a collective group that's really trying to blend with itself and determine who's going to do what and what's expected of each individual. And those are just moving targets. Those are things that we'll settle out as we continue to play games. And so, for an opening weekend 4-hour trip, not bad at all. Wichita, just right up the road practically compared to some of the trips we were used to. And, the lights came on and we learned a lot about ourselves.
Do you feel like you had a little bit of an advantage in the Monticello game because you did get to see them play versus watching it on film? I always found that seeing a game and seeing a team live was better for me than it was just to watch it on film. I just lost interest, watching the tapes because you can stop, you can roll it back, but during a live game, you actually have to stay focused, and watch your position, watch where you're going to be playing, and watch who you're going to be guarding, watch their tendencies, whether they lean left or right. Whether you feel like you can beat them in the low post, whether you feel like you can pop out off a screen if they don't fight over a screen very good. Right. So do you feel like that's an advantage or disadvantage?
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. I think, you also it's hard to pick up personality, right, and attitude and toughness off of film. And so when, Arkansas Monticello had a kid, number 10, I don't remember her name right now, but very, very physically tough, skilled player, kind of a turnkey kid for them. And, we had spoken on film about her and her ability to play what we call bully ball and be physical and try to overpower her opponent. And watching her play in person on Friday gave our kids a really good opportunity to see it. And, there were a couple matchups at different times where she tried to take Olivia Johnson in the post and she fought around a full fronted because she was prepared for the physicality. Mackenzie Piper subbed in and guarded her at the top of the key, and she changed directions 3 times and Piper stayed right in front of her with toughness, with physicality. Those are things that you pick up, like you say, in in-person evaluations, in-person observation. And so, not to mention just when you're in a gym and the season started up again and you've lost that familiar feeling of being in the gym and the intensity, the urgency, the excitement that comes with playing at the collegiate level and just the energy in the room at college basketball games when you've kind of lost that or it's gone away for months, right? So, being back in the gym Friday night, a lot of jitters, a lot of butterflies, nerves. I mean, kids admitted to me after the fact, that we felt the team collectively, and there were some individuals that had nerves in the opener. But then Saturday, unfortunately with the result Friday, Saturday was a real gut check right away, right out of the gate. And, we answered that bell. We showed up, we played, and we were also very aggressive and just physical on the defensive end, on the ball. And those are some characteristics, some traits that we plan to carry forward.
Coach, a difference between Friday night's team and Saturday's team, just watching the games and watching them from Randall Ford. It seemed like the guard play was much easier Saturday. And I don't mean that as far as competition-wise, but it seemed like the guards settled in early. Mm-hmm. And just instead of reacting, they were just making the passes and moving the ball around without any kind of issues. Mm-hmm. And it looked like from the guards, and that's what I focused on Saturday, was basically watching the guard play. And it just seemed like the ball movement was much crisper and the passes were, just came easier to them. It looked like they had already settled.
Yeah, and honestly, it was a very different game pace-wise. Mm-hmm. Southern Arkansas got back in a 2-3 zone, and we hadn't repped enough zone O to really feel comfortable and confident. You know, historically, our teams here and the way I like to coach and the way we like to play is fast, and so you're going to have teams that are going to try to slow us down and change pace. Southern Arkansas succeeded in that goal on Friday night. They got back into a 2-3 zone. Oftentimes because we were taking the ball out of the net, we had difficulty defensively, but the pace of the game was not to our liking. In fact, the 4 or 5 positive offensive clips I showed our team yesterday from Friday's game, 3 of them were transition baskets. So, you know, we like to play fast, and I think that the zone bothered us. I think that our preparation for the zone had not really taken hold. The intensity you have to cut with, the just execution of our zone-o, and those sorts of things that were difficult for us. They kind of hindered us a little bit in the opener. Saturday, Monticello chose to match up with us and go man-to-man, woman-to-woman defense, and you know, we thrive in that. We flourish in, you know, being able to cut people up, like we say, and drive gaps and get in the paint and share the ball and throw in more passes and drive it again. And, you know, Sinitra Jones also had a very different game Saturday than she did Friday. And, you know, her presence was felt defensively Friday with 4 blocks, but her presence was felt on both ends of the floor Saturday that really opened up even more space for our guards. And so, yeah, I agree with you. The settling in piece for sure. I just think that we kind of got through the first night jitters, and Saturday we were just in a completely different mindset, completely different energy. But also I think the defensive choice and the defensive strategy of Monticello fit us more, and we were able to really penetrate and move the basketball and create good shots. We didn't shoot the ball terribly well percentage-wise from behind the arc in either game, but we felt that we had better shots and we took better shots on Saturday that will go in. I mean, the shots we took Saturday were good shots for the most part, and put us in position to know when the shot's going up, know how to rebound, and all the things that take part in our system. So, yeah, our guard play, you know, your Zaniyah Thomas and your Talisha Brown playing, you know, kind of platooning each other at the point guard position, and, you know, our wings all the way through our 4 players, you know, our perimeter really did kind of play a different game Saturday than Friday. And some of that, I think, was defensive system of Monticello. The other part, like you say, was just kind of settling in. Yeah.
I don't know what you do in the off season as far as, you know, a schedule for the athletes, but Jones looks like she's put on a little bit of muscle. She looks like she's got stronger versus last year, and I think she should be a little more physical on the inside this year.
Yeah, I keep trying to talk her into a 4,000 calorie a day diet, Jimmy. I'm just begging her to just put as much weight on as she possibly can by the day. She's just not, you know, naturally, her natural metabolism doesn't allow it, right? So what is our choice? To put wiry strength on her frame instead of bulk and strength on her frame in that way. And she's doing the best she can in the weight room. I strongly believe that. You know, we have a great weight program, and she's really invested her time and energy into that in the fall. I think that she's really, you know, she started to break, you know, have some breakthroughs with, you know, her max lifts and certain Olympic lifts that are power lifts, you know, your deadlifts, your squats, your bench presses, and things like that. So, you know, that just shows an investment heading into senior year. That shows a real focus. And then, yeah, you want her to see and feel those rewards that then will encourage her to continue on that path. And any strength that she develops is a positive for our group, as well as any of our players. You know, you look at Morgan Browning, you know, she's a different athlete than when she got here, and she's been a natural athlete her whole life. But you have some folks, especially in our senior class, that, you know, are putting themselves in position to really compete at a high level athletically, and that's what we need. That's what we're going to rely on in the MIAA.
Coach, as we get ready to wrap up, you have a game coming up Wednesday at Arkansas Tech. So glad. You know, I've talked about this.
Oh, yes.
So glad that has been renewed for so long. I felt like it was silly, just the back and forth contest between the two schools, and they would never play. But now this is a new era, and we're playing Arkansas Tech. I think it's just a built-in perfect rivalry.
Yeah, and we owe them one. I hate saying that, and I've had to say that too many times in these first few years. You know, my kids knew that we lost at Monticello last year, and when we won that game Saturday, there were some comments of we owed them one, which I'm not a big bulletin board guy, but whatever the motivation, you know, that's necessary in order to get you to play your best, right? And so, you know, first game between the two programs last year on our home floor, they embarrassed us for 3 quarters. We had, 28-7 fourth or something like that to put it back into single digits. But the game was out of reach for quite a while.
Right.
We've spoken about that. And I think that, you want to create rivalries that are competitive, and you want to, and, Coach Wilbers and I have already talked, we're going to start the home and home again next year after this one when we return to them. And, that's going to be a continual thing. And when it's an hour away and when it's a rivalry, there is something extra. And you want your kids to show up and feel that energy. You want them to embrace those butterflies. I'm excited. Coach Wilbers is a great guy. He's a great coach. It makes sense, like you say, for us to play a school that's an hour down the road consistently each year. And we expect to have a much better showing Wednesday on the road, on their home floor. Our first true road game. Both games this past weekend were neutral. I'm excited to see what my kids are made of in a true road game against a rival an hour down the road. All the things point to just a great opportunity for us to show who we are.
I agree. Hey, don't forget we have the Hampton Inn Classic coming up this weekend at the Stubblefield Center. I want you to come on out and enjoy some great basketball, Coach. There will be 2 games each day. Of course, they'll lead off with volleyball at 1 o'clock. Then 3 o'clock, the basketball takes over the court. Missouri Southern taking on Southwest Baptist. And then in the nightcap at 5 o'clock, an old foe out of the Heartland and the Lone Star, A&M International will be here taking on the Lions. And then on Sunday, 2 more games, Missouri Southern taking on A&M International. That game tips off at 1 o'clock. And then 3 o'clock, you'll be hosting Southwest Baptist. Should be a fun classic.
Yeah, we're thrilled to host a 2 or a 4-team event. The Hampton Inn has been above and beyond a tremendous sponsor for our department for a long time, and just their interactions and their communication and willingness to sponsor this event has just been a great opportunity for us to continue to build on our relationship with them. They do a great job for our visiting teams and for our visiting families. So, if anybody needs a room, if they're coming to Fort Smith to watch games and they need a place to stay, the Hampton Inn is your place. But the competition on the floor will be excellent. Texas A&M International finished middle of our league last year and just shy of the national tournament. And Southwest Baptist is doing a great job, continuing to build their program. And then Missouri Southern is a perennial favorite in the MIAA year after year. And so, we're thrilled, excited to host an event, bring 3 different teams to our community, bring great Division II basketball to our arena. And we hope to do this every year. And we do invite, like you just said, we want everybody that is around and available to come out and support just the women's basketball games of ours and of, the other teams in our arena this weekend.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Saturday, Sunday. Come on out and be a part of it on the campus, University of Arkansas, Fort Smith. Hey, we're going to do this weekly. Make sure that you tune in right here for all UA Fort Smith Lions, Lady Lions reports. Anything that you need to know through the week, you can tune in to Bill Ferris, Bill and Karen on Cool 104.7, also the Fort 94.5, and we will make sure to keep everything updated, and also the Sports Hog, 103.5 FM. Jimmy Haas for Coach McAdams. Thanks for tuning in to the Lions Den at UA Fort Smith.